We're live. Hello. Hello. I'm Amanda Call. I'm working on a page for my comic, Age of Night, for like the fourth week in a row now, I think. This one has taken a while. There's a lot of rendering going on in the background. We drew the page on stream. We've done a couple sessions of inking because there's all this pen and ink work in the background that took a long time. Tonight, we're going to get this as close to done as we can, and this will be the last stream for this particular page. We'll move on to a different page next week. So, I still have a little bit of the pen and ink work to do in the background here, so I'm going to get out my Royal Talons India ink. Hey, Hungry, thanks for joining me. I'm going to open that up and get my Hunt 107 pen nib. Get a little, oh, gross. I got all on the edge of the bottle. Made a mess, and I haven't even started yet. Let's not with that huge mess. Okay. It's because I'm running low on ink in that bottle, and so I have to, really dive for it. I'm making a mess. All right, I've got a tiny bit left on the panel to do. So we're going to work on that. Ooh. Hope everyone has had a good week. I have been very productive. I've gotten a lot of comic pages drawn over the last week. It's also January is one of those times where there's usually not a lot going on, not a lot of stuff happening. So it's prime time for just hiding inside and getting as much artwork done as possible. It's it's cold and awful outside. I don't have anywhere I need to be. Hide inside and draw all the things. Draw all the comic pages. One little section on this panel is almost done. There's only a tiny bit left on this panel. Hey, Spud, thanks for joining me. Hope you're doing well. All right, there's that part. I think this is also just going to be black down here. So I've only got one more background to do, which is down here, and a little bit of pen work in those last two panels. So we're almost done with the pen stuff. Almost. Gotta do dots. Dots first off. Someone sane said, I made it to a stream while you're still alive. I always seem to be late. Oh, I'm so glad that you made it. And Spud said, yes, drinking and watching YouTube. Sounds like a relaxing way to spend your evening. I'm glad you were able to make it, someone sane. I feel like I always miss the live events that I try to get to as well, and I have to catch them after the fact. I'm not good at keeping up with like when things actually go live. Unless they're ones that I'm supposed to be on. I always get busy or sucked into something else entirely, and then I look at the time and I'm like, oh, that thing happened. Whoops. Right, almost done with dots. Dots, dots, dots. Or stippling, as the technical term is. It's just dots. Okay. Dots. Give it kind of a stone texture. The dots just kind of make it look like the walls aren't just lines. And I then build up the shading in a little bit here. So I spin my paper around to get this to a good angle for my wrist. I always want to be working in an angle that's the most comfortable and easy for you to work in. Just move the paper. All right. I'm going to build up the form of these columns first and then do the wall behind them. I see that there is a question. Give me just a second and I will actually look up and read it. I can see out of the corner of my eye that one popped up. Build that up just a little bit more. All right, it says, do you use some white medium on panel borders or take it out digitally? Oh, in the speech bubbles there, yeah. No, I'll be using gouache on the cleanup stage, which is very, very last. I'm almost out of this one. This is my preferred gouache. I had to buy a different type of gouache recently. I haven't tried it yet because I'm almost out of this one. But yeah, gouache is nice and opaque, and it's very easy with a brush to get exactly where you want it. And it dries super matte, which is nice too. And someone saying says, I usually miss things because of work. I'm either at the office or I'm so tired when I get home I fall asleep when the good stuff happens. Also very relatable. Like, you want me to stay up till what time? No, no, no. No, no, no. Yeah, so in general for cleanup I use the white gouache, and that's what I'll use to get rid of those panel borders inside of the speech bubble there. Because yes, the speech bubble is supposed to be breaking the panel border. I feel like I've got a piece of fiber on my pen nib, so I'm going to clean that off real quick. All right, I'm going to take a break from the little lines in the background real quick and just pick out those details on Drake's face here. I want to make sure that you can actually see his features since he's a black cat. We don't want all of his features to just disappear in his fur. So they've all kind of got to be outlined a little bit. Whiskers that go past the edge of his face. There we go. And we can finish filling in the wall back here. Turn the page around again to get a better angle. And again, when I have kind of like a big open space like this, I like to draw little guidelines to make sure that my hatching lines don't go all wobbly. Because if they go all wobbly, then the wall won't look straight anymore. Or worse yet, it won't even look like a wall, it'll just look like a bunch of weird lines behind the character, which we really don't want. So I do those little guidelines so I don't accidentally start to drift. Out of alignment. And I'm doing these long, straightish lines, as reasonably straight as they can be freehanded. I'm not really moving my wrist. My wrist is kind of locked, and I'm just pivoting from my elbow, which helps to keep them pretty straight. And then I can build that up. Yeah, I'd say that's doing what I want it to. That's good. All right. Just one little section of wall left. We're almost done with the wall. Hey, pen, why are you doing that? What are you doing? It's like I was not really letting out. What's going on? I think there's a paper fiber stuck in the tip there. It's not working very well. Hey, Ilya, thank you for joining me. Hope you're doing well. Oh, no. Thankfully, that area is supposed to be black anyway, but that's a big wet spot, so I'm gonna just dry that before that turns into a mess. Man, good thing that area is supposed to be black. Don't clean your pen directly over your page, or that can happen. Yikes. Yikes. It's not like that's never... Yeah, spotting blacks. Not the way I'm meant to, but that's effectively what's happening. Just throw ink at the page, right? That's a great strategy. Great plan. Goodness. Put that in pretty dark right there. There we go. Let's get a little lighter through here. Speech bubble kind of went along. Yep. What the hell? Exactly. You knew what was going to happen. These heavily rendered scenes just take forever. All this pen ink rendering takes so long. It takes so long to build it up. Like, it looks really nice when it's done, which is why I do it, but every time when I'm like partway through one, I'm like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this to myself? If I ever made a comic about myself, so I do the occasional like journal comic and just kind of upload it online. I do Hourly Comic Day every year. So if you're not familiar with Hourly Comic Day, February 1st every year, it's a comic making event where you make a journal comic every hour that you're awake. I've done that every year for, oh my gosh, like 12 years now, I think. A very long time. And so I do those every year, and I always compile them into little mini comics. So that's probably like the most, as far as like comics about myself, that I usually do. Occasional little journal comics I just upload on social media, but most of the time it's just the Hourly Comic Day. All right. There. So now the only pen nib I have to do is on this figure over here, this cat figure. It will be floating in blackness. So we got to get him totally outlined so that we can see him. He's not lost in the void. All his little limbs, little toes outlined. So I concentrate and try not to mess up his face. Let's not mess up his face. That would be good. All right, there we go. There we go. All right, so now I'm going to clean off and put away my pen. We're going to move on to the next stage. See how close to being done with this whole page we get. So now I'm going to move on to brush inking. So I've got my Winsor Newton ink, the black Indian ink, the one with the spider on the bottle. Not that you can really tell because mine is a mess. Hey, Shade, thanks for joining me. That off to the side. I've got my Winsor Newton Series 7 number 4 inking brush. Get it loaded up, and I've got my little piece of scrap paper over here that I use to kind of hone down my point. Of course, one of my lights is sitting on it. So we're going to come back up to the top, and we're going to keep going through and trying to get as much done as we can on the brush inking. Someone says, I always have trouble keeping my expressions looking the same after I ink over my pencils. Yeah, that can happen sometimes, especially like stuff like expressions. It takes very, very little in the way of like small changes to your drawing to really change what the expression looks like. The expressions can be so incredibly subtle. And that still happens to me sometimes. It happens a lot less with more practice. I think sometimes it's that some of the information like actually does just get lost when you ink, because then you don't have some of the, same subtleties in your underdrawing, or sometimes things change because you didn't line up the inks exactly right. But yeah, that can happen. That still happens to me on occasion. I draw a face and then I ink it and I'm like, that doesn't look like the same face anymore. Alright, we're filling in our black cat. Hopefully once we get this filled in, then the weird, like, sketched, picked out elements will make more sense. It will look a little less silly. So we probably won't entirely finish this on the stream, but this will be the last stream for this page, and then we're going to shift over to a different comic page that we'll be working on the stream for a while. Part of that is that this comic page is going to be posted for patrons tomorrow, so I got to be done with it. But I also want to shift us over to an I Am the First page. So that's the plan for this year pretty much, is we'll be alternating between Age of Night pages and I Am the First pages. Since those are my big two projects right now. Alright, now it actually looks like a cat face. Whoop, uh-oh. I'm leaning on my drafting table and it seems that it was not as secured as I thought. This had a lot to do with wanting to get to the next stage before I'm ready. Yeah. Well, so the thing is, there's two ways you can go about that, really. You can spend more time refining the pencils and getting them closer to what you want your end product to look like, and then you should have, something that's, when you do ink it, you should have something that's closer to that. But if you're inking your own pencils, you don't necessarily have to. And again, with like some practice, you can basically treat the inking stage as the way that you finish your drawing, and just do like a very loose pencil drawing, and then make your final decisions and commit to your final drawing at the ink stage. And obviously, like, the thing is, then yeah, your drawing is going to change. The faces are going to change. The expressions are going to change. But if that's like what you know the process is going to be, then you can lean into it working that way. Because like if you're drawing pencils and you're passing them off to an inker, then yeah, you want to make sure that every line is exactly where it needs to be. But if you're inking your own pencils, you don't necessarily have to take them to that level. You can make some of those drawing decisions at the ink stage, if that's what you want to do. If you are just eager to get to the ink stage, then you kind of just have to approach inking as more of a drawing stage than like a finishing stage, if that makes sense. I hope what I'm saying is making any kind of sense. I know what I'm trying to say. I don't know if I'm saying it in a clear, articulate way. All right, before I forget, I was like, what is this white space back here? I forgot. What is going on back here? It's a person who is lying down and sleeping. So we've got a person under a blanket back there. All right. Kind of feather my line where those pen marks are so that it's not just like a harsh black line halfway through them. But here on the outer edge of the leg, it is just going to be a straight line because that's the edge of the leg. It's the outer edge. It's not where that highlight is coming from. Insecure. Oh, yeah. That makes sense. It is not especially forgiving. Ink is not especially forgiving. You have to be very precise or very willing to roll with mistakes, or some combination thereof. Do you think this comic will ever end? It will. It's got a finite endpoint that I am working toward. It's going to be like several years yet because of the extremely slow pace at which I update, but it does have a planned ending that I am working towards. It is planned for a total of 35 chapters, and I'm on chapter 26 right now. So we're getting there. We're getting toward there. I'm working on the penultimate volume right now because it's going to be 5 volumes altogether. So I'm working on volume 4. So it won't go on forever. It does have a planned endpoint. Yeah, it's been going for an incredibly long time. All right, we've kind of filled in all of this space. There is like a hair of some type on my brush. I don't know if you can see that. There, now you can see it. Get off of there. Weird random piece of fuzz. Alright, I'm going to get the outline of this cat. That line of darkness right up next to him. There we go. I'm gonna get this like whole side here outside of him filled in so I don't have to worry about dragging my hand through it later. Gonna kind of feather our way in to the edge to keep him looking nice and fuzzy, which if you're not familiar with the technique, let me just show you what I'm talking about as far as what feathering entails. I'm just going to scoot this down a little bit in some of the space that I'm going to cover completely in black anyway. So you can kind of see a little bit of it up here that I was kind of unintentionally doing. But feathering is basically where you have a line that goes from very thin to thick, like that. And you can do it either by putting down your brush or by picking up your brush. And you do a bunch of those right next to each other and you get the feathering effect there. And you see that a lot in inking. And that's how you get that effect. I was taught to do it the way where you like start with it barely touching and go down, but I always found it more natural to do it the other way where you start with the brush down more and pick up. I've always had a lot more luck controlling it and getting the effect that I wanted that way. So whichever way works for you. It does take a fair amount of practice and you have to be really in tune with the amount of pressure that you need to get those marks with your brush. But that's what feathering is, in case you were wondering. And now I'm going to just cover all that over. I'm going to cover that lovely example over with ink, and you won't see it anymore. But now you know what I'm talking about. If you look for it, you'll see it a lot in comic inking on the edges of like big dark shadows. Rotate this paper a little bit to get in the spot here. Very carefully get around his face and not mess up any of his features Don't want to accidentally ink right over any of his features. I'd be very sad if that happened. Well, goodbye, feathering example. Goodbye. We're going to do some more of it, though. Just kind of blend in with our fur texture here. It does also make for a good fur texture. What time are we at? It is 8:42. Okay. These streams last for about an hour, because at the end of the hour, I'm going to need to stand up and straighten my back, and you should get up and stretch, and we should all go get a drink of water. All of those good things. All of those good things. We still have a little bit of time left, so we'll see how far we get. Pretty sure we'll at least get this top tier done. Which I know that, like, just filling in large black areas with ink is not like the most technical thing for me to be doing, but it is very satisfying. I live in Australia, so the time is 12:43. It is so like noon or at night. Like middle of the I'm trying to wrap my head around this. And feeling not very bright. Be like noon, right? Kinda. Okay. Noon, kinda. I have to stop and think way too hard about time zones. I don't know why. I have friends who live in all sorts of different time zones, and I try to stop and think about, like, wait, what time is it there? Even just trying to coordinate with other friends in the United States, and the continental United States is only 4 time zones. And I still have to stop and, like, think for an embarrassingly long time to try to figure out what time it is where my friends live. I am not sure why I struggle with this so much. It's just a weak point for me. All right. So that's another panel complete. Complete, except for cleanup, but 12:43 p.m. Yes. So like a little afternoon. All right, so then Drake opens his eyes, but now the person who was lying on the floor behind him isn't there. What is happening? Things are strange. Strange things are happening. I'm so excited for the next scene after this one. I started working on this scene goes on for a few pages, and those are all done other than this one at this point. I started working on the next scene, and I was just like, I'm so excited, you guys. I'm very excited for it. Working on the layouts and just giggling to myself. Well, thank you, Elia. I sometimes to my detriment, but yes, I do work very hard at keeping on top of all this stuff. But it is what I love to do, so I'm usually quite content to work way harder than I ought to. Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely good to be having fun while also working on it. Which I mean, there are certainly parts of like even this comic or just my job in general where it's some days you're just like, I just got to get through what I have on the docket today. Just not in the mood, but I got to do it anyway. But generally, I have a lot of fun. Let's see, we are in the last 10 minutes, so it's time to do the things. I will remind anyone who came in late, I'm Amanda Call. I'm working on my webcomic, Age of Night. That's what this is. You can read the whole thing for free at ageofnight.com. That's AGEOFNIGHT.com. I upload a new comic page every Wednesday. And we're on chapter 26. So there's a lot of comic to pour through if you're looking for a nice deep fantasy backlog. You can read the whole thing for free, but if you would like to help support me, you can do so at patreon.com/ageofnight, spelled the same way as the comic. Patrons, even for just $1 a month, get all of their comics a week early, and other behind-the-scenes stuff and free comics for signing up, all that kind of good stuff. Plus, it's awesome, and I appreciate it. It means a lot to me. You can also buy copies of the comic if you would prefer to read it in physical format, or have a copy that you can just like download onto a device and not have to worry about pages loading or anything. The first 3 volumes are available, so that it'll take you from the prologue all the way to chapter 21. Physical versions are available on Amazon, as well as like ebook versions, and PDF versions are available on the One Bookshelf family of websites. So that's Drive-Thru RPG, Drive-Thru Fiction, and Drive-Thru Comics, through my publishing partner, Skirmisher Publishing. The PDFs are also like, if you maybe I feel like they are. I could be wrong. That's a good one, Ilya. But what did the left eye say to the right eye? Between us, something smells. That's funny. That's a good one. I think all of that is linked there. If not, I will make sure I put it in the description. I usually have all that in the description of the videos. So once this goes off air, I'll update that. But I'm pretty sure most of that is in my channel description. It's been a little while since I actually like looked at that and updated it. What else? Oh yeah, so if you liked this video, be sure to do the thumbs up thing and subscribe to the channel. I do these live art streams every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. I also have like some pre-recorded and edited videos on the channel about doing art stuff if you want to check those out. I will get back to doing those eventually, I guess, at some point. Let's rewind to hear the links again. Okay, yeah, that works too. I'm pretty sure I have most of those links somewhere, but I just can't swear to it. What else? Other socials. You can find me on Instagram at AmandaCallArt. That's just my name with the word art after it. You can find me on Twitter at Age of Night, spelled the same way as the comic, AGEOFNIGHT. And Age of Night also has a Facebook page if you do Facebook. It pretty much just tells you when the comic updates. That's pretty much all that happens. I think I can get just a tiny bit done on this one before we run out of time. So I'm just going to start on this little tail here. That'll be nice. We got more than just the top tier done. Oh, this one's tiny. This one's quite small. I have to concentrate very hard not to mess it up. Ow! Okay. I'm gonna do his ear, and then we're gonna call it because I think I need to get closer, and I don't want my head in the camera. So, okay. Rinse my brush off real quick. That is gonna do it for this evening. That'll do it for this page on the stream. I have like maybe another 20 minutes of work left on this. It's not going to take me very long to finish it up. And then, well, I still need to do cleanup, so maybe more like 30 minutes. But just a little bit left on this. We've worked on this for several streams now. We started with just empty panel borders, and now we have almost a completed page, which should be going up for patrons tomorrow and to the public the following week. So thanks, everybody, for coming and hanging out with me this evening. I will see you next time. Bye.